I just bought Warner Brothers for $82 billion. And I will reduce the theatrical release time for movies and raise subscription prices. Anyway, Pirate Hat. I see. Okay. So I want everybody to read this twice, 3 times if you have to. Paramount is $54 billion. It's a lot of money. In debt, and they're borrowing another $50 billion. What did I say? I said Zaslav chose Netflix because Netflix can absorb all of WBD's debt. I thought Netflix was in debt too. So Paramount launches a $108 billion bid for Warner Brothers Discovery. I love corporate conglomeration, corporate consolidation. Thank God we can just have one media company, and that way they don't have to worry about marketing each other against each other because there's only going to be one set of movies. Yeah, I mean, this is really convenient, isn't it, guys? This is great. Thank God. Hostile takeover? Yes, of course, debt buying debt. It's crazy, isn't it? And this is crazy. HBO should make a show about billionaire media tycoons trying to buy another media conglomerate and highlight all of the behind-the-scenes drama. Yeah, Paramount launched a hostile takeover bid for Warner Brothers Discovery valued at $108 billion. So they think they're going to probably try to get in there for like, you know, I guess, 54, right? Because that's half. And then basically just do that to undercut Netflix. That's interesting. This is what my opinion is. I think that all of these American movie companies and media companies are totally fraudulent, and they make shitty movies now for the most part. And I think that if they want to buy each other up and make their movies even shittier, then it's not my problem and I don't care. At the end of the day, I think that we're going to have, you know, like good studios, good production facilities, and good directors that are always going to make good movies. And I don't really care about any of this stuff at all. They want to buy all of Warner Brothers, including the TV business. Netflix's offer is inferior and provides uncertain value. They're right. Now, I don't think Paramount's I don't think it's really that good either. If Paramount is allowed to take over Warner Brothers Discovery, the conservative billionaire Ellison family will control Paramount Studios, CBS, CNN, MTV, HBO, Comedy Central, Nickelodeon, Cartoon Network, Warner Brothers, DC Studios, Fandango, New Line Cinema, TNT Sports, TBS, Oracle, and more. Wow. This is the reason why people are upset. I guess I could go and do the Wikipedia thing, but that might be a little bit too on the nose. People are upset because Larry Ellison and his son, I believe, fucking whatever, are from Israel. They're Israeli, they're Jewish. This is the reason why people are thinking about it, right? And put this in layman's terms, a bunch of rich people are trying to outrich each other so they can ruin the things that you love. They will either sit on an IP, turn it into propaganda, or sell it to you at an astronomical price, and that's the studio. Is it true that a lot of anti-Semitic videos on TikTok were removed and taken down, and you're not able to use the juice emoji because people used it as phonetically similar to the word Jews? Is that true? Like, I don't really go on TikTok. Do you believe in patterns? I believe in patterns to an extent, but to say that Jewish people have like a collective interest in doing this to promote Jewish interests, I think is the same logic that black people use to say that there's white supremacy in America. I do. I think it's basically the same logic. So do they not own TikTok? They do. And so that's both are true. I mean, sure, right? But like that's the way that I see it. I mean, I don't know. I get. Are these just different people that are Jewish themselves? They're fighting, like, don't they own fucking Warner Brothers too? Like, sure. So how is this like a global conspiracy if they're fighting amongst each other? Really? Like, there's very clearly not a universal Jewish hegemony that they're making all decisions inside of a cabal. There might be a degree of ethnic solidarity that people always have with each other, sure. But, like, to go even farther than that, I'd need a little bit more evidence, okay? But anyway, listen, I understand that the year is 2025. I understand that. It's the Jews. They did everything. They buried fossils in the ground thousands of years ago to make Christians not believe in Jesus. I'll be looking forward to seeing that one on Twitter tomorrow. Netflix is already filled with propaganda, like the show Whitewash, the kid that killed the school friend. Oh, yeah, it was the UK one. I remember that. I forgot the name, though. This is what a banana republic looks like. A banana republic. Affinity Partners, the private equity firm led by Jared Kushner, is part of Paramount's hostile takeover bid for the Warner Brothers Discovery. Paramount is telling WBD shareholders it has a smoother path to regulatory approval than Netflix, and Kushner's involvement only strengthens that case. I love how these people are now just discovering political corruption. Wait a minute. So you're telling me that the president's son is going to have an easier job getting this big deal approved? What? Say 112 likes. Isn't it crazy how he started here and then he went to here and now he's back up to here and he's going farther up? I am really curious to see what's going to happen with the Passion of the Christ 2. If that could be fucking crazy. Yeah, like, wow, winning? Yeah, explain, please. Yeah, I guess we've got some younger guys. Mel Gibson went on a mega racist, anti-Semitic rant. I remember I was like going to Wendy's with my dad whenever we were talking about this. And this was like in the mid 2000s. And like before this, like Mel Gibson was like fucking like he was more well known and more popular than like Pedro Pascal is now, right? Like he was in tons of movies, he was in commercials. Like this guy was fucking in everything, and people liked him too. They thought he was great. So this, like Mel Gibson was like a cultural icon of the 90s and the early 2000s. He was the guy. And then so he said a bunch of bad shit about Jews. Like I can't even say it. But he said it. And you know, basically what happened is that now that hating Jews, like this is there any racism that's older than hating Jews? Is there any, like, because I feel like this is the OG racism. How bleak has it gotten that a movie studio has to say they're going to release movies in theaters? I don't think that's a good idea. So here's the problem with going to movie theaters. Retards. Retards that, like, I think that if you clap in a movie theater, unless it is Gandalf defeating the Balrog in the Two Towers or destroying Sauron at the end of Return of the King, if you're clapping in a movie theater, you need to leave. You have to leave. This is ridiculous. Being on your phone, talking. Like, we have a place that's called the Alamo Drafthouse here in Austin, okay? You know what happens if you talk? You're kicked out. You know what happens if you're on your phone? You're kicked out. You know what happens if you start making noise? You're kicked out. Anything, and the thing is also, it's expensive. It's expensive. So there's no 16-year-olds that are showing up with like 7 of their friends, and they're going to sit there for 5 fucking movies, and they get bored after the first one, and they're just like, hey, look at the video. Look at this. Look, so it's me? Look at me. Look, oh, this is us. Look at us. Well, yeah, it's an empty theater. Yeah, I feel like that's the real reason. And I think movie theaters are they're too expensive. They're too expensive, and the concessions are too expensive as well. Maybe it is a dying business model. Really. Maybe it would be better off if we went back to drive-in movie theaters, because they have a much lower overhead, and we only had a handful of movie theaters like the Alamo Drafthouse. So AMC is on life support? Yeah, I mean, I remember, so like, whenever I was a kid, there was like, because my dad and I would go, like, this is every Saturday, right? My dad would pick me up, and we would go to Wendy's. We would go to Wendy's, and then after we go to Wendy's, we'd usually go maybe home, and this is what's crazy. He would check, but this, you're not going to believe this. If you're under 25, you're not even going to believe this happened. He would check the newspaper. And he would read on the newspaper, and it would say, oh, shit, Mission Impossible Rush Hour 3 is going to be on at 1:30 and 3:30. And I would be like, okay, well, let's go to the 3:30. He says, okay. Then we go to the 3:30 movie. And there was like 7 movie theaters here. There were so many movie theaters here. Now, there's like 2. They're pretty much fucking extinct. Endgame was the last movie worth going to the cinema for. So, like, what is a new movie that I would be willing to go to the movie theaters to see? A movie that's coming up. Dune 3. Honestly, like, yeah, the Odyssey, I think it's gonna suck. In my opinion, who are they casting for Odysseus again? I always thought Robert Downey Jr. would be a perfect Odysseus. I did. I thought he would be perfect. I forgot, and I think that like I've invented this in my mind so much that I can't accept anybody. Matt Damon? Okay, that's acceptable. Avengers Doomsday? Dude, I am so out on Marvel. I am. After Endgame, I am so out. I don't really care. I've seen a couple of the movies. I just think that like the problem is that like here's the issue is that like you go on to a level like the Celestials is probably the best example of this, is that the power and like the content, like for example, like at the early Dragon Ball Z, I felt like the power scaling was understandable to a person. But then you got to like Dragon Ball Super and the power scaling was so fucking high. Like Thanos wasn't infinitely powerful. Like he could lose in a fight, in a fist fight, right? Like Hulk could punch him in the face and he'd be like, damn, right? You can't do that to somebody like fucking Galactus. You can't do it. So the power scaling is so high that it's like, it becomes theoretical. It's not interesting anymore. And so he just needed the gauntlet? Yeah, I know that. But, like, that's what made Thanos interesting is because he wasn't invincible. I think whenever you have invincible characters, that it becomes less interesting. It's kind of like Dr. Manhattan, the only reason why he's interesting is because he's interesting because it's a psychological study on the human condition, right? He's not interesting by his powers necessarily unless you're, like, into science shit. But, like, otherwise, that's what really makes him interesting. And like Superman, I always thought Superman was a really boring character. I did. I never liked Superman as a character at all. But anyway, so yeah, Warner Brothers is being bought out, and Paramount and Netflix are fighting for who gets to buy them out. And we are talking about billions and billions and billions of dollars. Paramount promises to release 30 more films in movie theaters. I'm sure dozens of people will be thrilled about that. And the dude in Warner Brothers who's going to finesse $5.8 billion for Netflix for the breakup fee and then get the $100 million from Paramount might be the greatest businessman of all time. Probably true if that happens. And Trump talking about him personally being involved in deciding the fate of Netflix Warner Brothers deal. So, and how it is bad. Meanwhile, his son-in-law is financing the competing offer. There has never been a more corrupt administration in the U.S. history. However bad you think it is now, it's going to get worse. Never forget that.